What if the thing that's been quietly stealing your sleep, stalling your weight loss, and feeding your anxiety has a name and no one has been warning you about it? And what if that same thing has also been behind some of the most meaningful work of your career? I've just climbed up a mountain here to give you an adventure and give me some good endorphins to make this video. And now I'm gonna walk from the top of this mountain here down to a gorgeous creek and a bridge at the bottom. And meanwhile, I'll walk you through 7 hidden ADHD symptoms that nobody warned me about in case it helps you. Not the classic can't sit still stuff that you've always heard. The ones that show up as a body that won't cooperate, a brain that won't quiet down, and a drive that might not turn off, even when you desperately need it to. And by the end of this, I want you to see what I now see, that your ADHD symptoms may be the very reason that you've achieved as much as you have. And some of those symptoms that they can actually change for the better. Here's where this gets personal. I was 50 years old when my husband said, in the middle of what was probably my 15th overlapping project, he said, "You have ADHD, Adriana." What was my first reaction? Honestly, slightly defensive. I'm a transformational mindset facilitator and a longtime strategist. I help impact leaders regulate their nervous systems. I know about the brain and the power of focus. I've studied neuroscience. Focus is everything. But then I sat with it and I started to see it everywhere in my life. The way I've been drawn to 10 things at once, the way that I can hyper focus on something I love for hours and then completely forget to do some basic things like open the mail. The way I've built my career on connecting ideas across disciplines in ways that people call innovative. I'm multi-passionate. I'm deeply fundamentally adaptable. And I'm an explorer, as you can see, an innovator, a creator, a hunter, a gatherer, not of food, but of ideas, solutions, possibilities, and good people. Dr. Chris Palmer at Harvard would say that some of us are simply wired differently, and the traits that we label as ADHD were profoundly adaptive for human survival. The explorers, the pioneers, the ones who couldn't sit still for hours reading one book because they weren't supposed to. Some of the most unique contributions in history have come from people who followed their passions across disciplines and refused to be reduced to a single thing. Here's what nobody tells you though. That same wiring that makes you innovative also has a shadow side. And if you work in social impact, you carry the weight of a mission, the pressure of a team, the expectations of funders and communities. That shadow side can quietly run you into the ground. Shirzad Chamine, Stanford professor and creator of the positive intelligence methodology, calls them saboteurs, the internal patterns that hijack our best intentions. The two I see most in ADHD wired impact leaders: the hyperachiever, who ties their worth entirely to their output, the accolades, your next win. It sounds like drive and it feels like purpose, but underneath all of that, it is anxiety and the exhausting belief that you are only as valuable as your last achievement. Another is the avoider, who goes mysteriously quiet on exactly the things that matter most, not because you don't care, because you care so much that the stakes feel unbearable or painful. I've lived both of those deeply, and I started to understand them as patterns, not flaws, not laziness. And then everything changed for me. I now build a strong weekly cadence around what is most important to me, not necessarily the most urgent things, but those will get done. Not what's most flattering to my ego, but what's most important. That shift alone has changed how I lead. Now, here's the science that I want you to have, because this is changing how I understand my own brain. Dr. Chris Palmer is a Harvard psychiatrist who has spent 30 years studying the metabolic roots of mental health. And this is what his research shows. Many of the symptoms that we associate with ADHD, the inability to focus, the mood crashes, the emotional dysregulation, may be rooted in how our brains are metabolizing energy. Some brain regions can be underactive, not because of a character flaw, not because you're broken, but because of differences in brain metabolism. The goal is to help these underactive regions become more active and to normalize. And here's the empowering part. We have more power to do that than most of us were ever told, like food, movement, sleep, connection. These aren't just lifestyle choices, they're brain interventions. So let's talk about what that actually looks like through 7 symptoms that no one ever warned me about. And before I take you through these, a quick ask. If this is resonating, if you've been quietly carrying some of these questions about your focus, your energy, your ability to lead at the level that you are capable of, then please subscribe to my channel. It helps me bring you this kind of content at no cost to you, and I'm deeply committed to making sure impact professionals have access to this work. You can also find a great next step resource in the description for a deep dive. Okay, let's get into it. The first one, and this is personal for me because it happened for a year before I figured it out with the help of a women's health doctor and my husband who knows a lot. It's sleep disruption, not trouble falling asleep. It's waking up at 1 or 2 in the morning, jolted awake, mind running. I didn't know why this had started happening to me after nearly always sleeping well before this. And here's the thing, there are genuinely valid reasons for anxiety right now. From big world level things like the ongoing rollbacks of rights for women and people of color, geopolitical tensions, the Epstein files that confirmed what many of us already sensed about power and corruption, but are dismayed to see the lack of change in the lives of perpetrators, the smaller scale things at home or at work, a colleague who doesn't follow through, for example, a grant cycle that's brutal, a board member who doesn't fully see the vision. These are not imagined stressors, but what I've learned is that my brain was also waking me up because cortisol was spiking in the night. A dysregulated sleep architecture that is very common in ADHD wired brains. The pineal gland, which regulates melatonin, can function differently in people with ADHD. I now take hormones so that I can sleep through the night, and that's not a weakness, that's part of biology. Alongside that, I brought journaling back into my mornings and sometimes an evening ritual, and I've added habit stacking from the positive intelligence method, small somatic check-ins where I stack with existing rituals that help me metabolize the stress before it owns my day or my night and helps me look forward to getting out of bed without feeling like I should dive right into work projects when I'm not ready yet. First, I have my morning ritual with coffee, journaling, seeing the sunrise, petting my dog, going for a walk or a run. The second hidden symptom is weight gain that doesn't respond to normal approaches. A study of over 700,000 individuals found significantly higher rates of obesity in people with ADHD. And the connection isn't simply impulsive eating, though that can be real too. The ADHD brain is metabolizing differently. The differences affect focus and emotional regulation, and it affects how our body uses fuel. When the brain isn't getting the energy that it needs, it goes looking for fast sources like sugar, refined carbs, caffeine. Dr. Palmer's prescription here is clear: higher protein, lower processed carbohydrates, real whole foods, not diet culture. Nutrition is one of the most powerful interventions that we have, and most impact professionals that I work with are running on a diet that would make a performance athlete weep. Am I right? Third, anxiety that feels completely justified. And here's the nuance, it is justified. The world is genuinely hard right now. Well, it has been for a long time with trauma. But the ADHD wired brain also amplifies threat signals. What registers as a 6 for someone else lands as a 9 for us because our nervous systems are already running hotter, already scanning for danger at a faster rate. And this is where somatic practice becomes non-negotiable, not a luxury. Honestly, it's a metabolic intervention because regulating your nervous system is regulating your brain. It's why I do the work I do and why practices like ceramics on Saturdays have become as important to me as any strategic meeting. Fourth, and this one runs deep in the impact sector, the hyperachiever pattern, the compulsive need to prove your worth through your output. This is the positive intelligence saboteur that quietly drives most mission-driven leaders that I work with. It sounds like passion, it feels like dedication, but underneath it is a belief, often unconscious, that you are only as valuable as your last win. So ADHD can turbocharge this because the dopamine hit of achievement is neurologically very real for our brains. We literally feel better when we produce. The problem is the crash that follows and the growing distance between who you are and what you do. I ask myself now, is this action coming from vision or from fear? That question alone has saved me more than a few burnout spirals. Take a look at these gorgeous manzanitas here. It's amazing. The fifth symptom, avoidance. And this one surprises people because avoidance doesn't look like laziness. It looks like busyness. The avoider saboteur is sneaky. You answer every email. You help your colleague with their project. You reorganize your desk. You get so much done. You do everything except the thing that actually matters right now, because the ADHD brain feels the stakes of that important thing so acutely that approaching it feels almost dangerous. It's rejection sensitivity, really, the intense emotional reaction to perceived failure or criticism. It's deeply linked to ADHD. It takes the risk of not doing your important thing justice feel enormous. So instead, we protect ourselves by not starting. And the antidote isn't willpower, it's structure, community, and accountability, which I'll come back to. One thing that helps me is taking that first little step, like just opening the doc that I need to work on. Sixth is the multi-passionate scatter that you've probably called a flaw your whole life. Some of us are genuinely not built to sit in one lane and go straight, am I right? Not built to read a single book for 4 hours or to see one task from beginning to end without 10 brilliant tangents. Some of us are wired to be at the intersection, to see the connection between an Indigenous healing practice and a corporate leadership development program, to start the community platform and the ceramic studio and the podcast, because they're all the same idea expressed in different ways. And unique gifts, world-changing contributions have come from people who followed their passions wherever they led. The key is not eliminating the chaos. It's building a rhythm for it, a weekly cadence, a community that can hold you accountable and help you go deep. And finally, the seventh, the one almost no one warns you about, is the crash. After a period of peak output, a major launch, an intense funder campaign, a season of giving everything you have, the ADHD wired brain can just stop, flat, withdrawn, unable to do even the simplest things. It's not depression, though it can look like it. It's a nervous system that has been running at full capacity and has finally been forced offline. The solution isn't rest after the crash. It's building rest into the rhythm before the crash comes. Exercise, real intentional movement, strength and cardio, climbing this mountain, because muscle mass is directly tied to metabolic health. And sleep, non-negotiable, supported if you need support. Connection, not networking, but genuine human contact that restores rather than drains. And nourishment, the kind that reaches into the roots. Here's what I want to leave you with. because this is a story of agency, not victimhood. Your brain is metabolizing differently than it might need to, and you have more power over that than anyone told you or that you knew. Like exercise, eat real food, sleep, get the support your biology needs to do that. Connect with others who are doing meaningful work like you are. For me, that accountability comes through communities like the Impact Room, a focused, collaborative environment for people like us, people who need structure and genuine human connection to do their deepest work. Not isolation, not a noisy open office, at least not all the time. A curated container. In the description, you can find the link. And I've built a morning habit stack that you might like to do as well, inspired by positive intelligence, that begins with somatic check-ins before my brain goes into problem-solving mode. In addition, the transformational mindset method that I've learned and become certified in has given me a framework for turning insight into embodied, lasting change. And I can introduce it to you in different ways in the Impact Room. So here's the truth that I want you to hold. Your ADHD symptoms may be the very reason that you've achieved as much as you have. The intensity, the creativity, the refusal to give up, the ability to see what others miss. And some of those symptoms, the weight, the sleep, the anxiety, the proving and crashing cycle, these are not your destiny. They are data points, and they can shift. If any of this has landed, if you saw yourself in even one of these 7 symptoms, I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment below. I read them all. Which of these symptoms surprised you the most? Which one have you been quietly living with? Through this journey of looking at the 7 symptoms, you've made it down the mountain with me, and we're about to see the beautiful creek and bridge across it. If this was useful to you, share it with one other person in your world who is running too hard, maybe sleeping too little. They need this kind of support. I'm Adriana Dakin. I'm multi-passionate, a weaver of life and relationships, deeply adaptable, and I'm building a community and a cadence for what matters most. And this is the old wooden bridge and the gorgeous creek that I promised you. I love coming here. I'll see you in the next video that helps you from another angle of personal centering and focus. Thanks. I'll see you next time.